Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We are going to be going over the answers for the poem New Colossus and the John F. Kennedy speech. So here we go. Part A. Which of the following best describes a theme of the poem? If you cannot read this, the poem is attached to the assignment. So read the PDF first, it'll be easier. So we're looking for a theme of the poem. So we've got A, immigrants flock to America mainly for safety concerns. B, America values welcoming immigrants with open arms. C, immigrants forget their old customs when they come to America. And D, people who immigrate to new countries must work hard and have strong resilience. So first, it doesn't say anything about us or people who immigrate having to have strong resilience or having to work hard. It doesn't ask that they forget their old customs, and it doesn't say they come just for safety concerns. A lot of times they're kicked out or exiled from their old countries. So B, we're welcoming immigrants with open arms regardless of how they come, is the best answer. So then we've got part B. Which of the following lines best supports the answer to part A? So we've got A, not like the brazen giant of Greek flame, with conquering limbs astride. B, here at our sea-washed sunset gate shall stand a mighty woman with a torch, whose flame is the imprisoned lightning. C, her mild eyes command the air-bridged harbor that twin cities frame. Or D, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. So if we're welcoming all immigrants with open arms, which one seems like we're doing that? I would say probably give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. That is everybody. All right, then we've got part A. What is the effect of calling the Statue of Liberty the Mother of Exiles in line 6? A, it emphasizes how fearsome the statue stands in the harbor, guarding America and its citizens from the outside threats as a mother would protect a child. B, it portrays the statue as both maternal and protective of immigrants, welcoming them into the U.S. and promising to provide for them. C, it highlights how the majority of Americans came to the U.S. because they were exiled or thrown out of their previous countries. D, it emphasizes the statue's meek appearance, unlike the appearances of other mighty statues. Oh, goodness. Excuse me, guys. All right. So, if we're looking at this and we're thinking about just the way they say it, Mother of Exiles. So, is it talking about how fearsome she is with her lightning and stuff? No. It's calling her the Mother of Exiles. So that portrays maternal and protectiveness. But let's look at the next one. C, it highlights how the majority of Americans come to U.S. because they were exiled or thrown out. So yes, it's the Mother of Exiles, but it's not saying they had to be exiled or thrown out. It's just immigrants that have come. So D, it emphasizes the statue's meek appearance. Remember, she is a mother. She is protective. She is not timid or meek or mild or small. She is large and fearsome. And so I would say it's got to be A or B. I'm going to go with B, though, because remember, we've been talking about welcoming immigrants the entire time. So it's going to be someone that's both maternal and protective and welcoming. All right, then we go to part B. Which quote from the poem best supports the answer to part A? So A, not like the brazen giant of Greek fame, with conquering limbs astride. B, here at our sea-washed sunset gate shall stand a mighty woman with a torch. C, from her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome. D, her mild eyes command the air-bridged harbor that twin cities frame. So if you're thinking about what we've been talking about this whole time, we're talking about welcome. There's only one answer that talks about welcome. That's going to be C, guys. From her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome. Because remember, she's the Mother of Exiles. She's welcoming all the immigrants. All right. Here we go, guys. Compare the lines, keep ancient lands your storied pomp, line 9, with give me your tired, your poor, line 11. How do these lines contribute to readers' understanding of the Statue of Liberty's character? A, she wants to keep all wealthy immigrants from the ancient lands out of the U.S. because they will not work as hard as poor immigrants. B, she is uninterested in receiving the old grandeur and riches of the ancient lands. the immigrants come from and prefers to welcome those in need. C. She does not want the new immigrants coming to the U.S. to bring their old customs with them from the ancient lands, as she prefers that they adapt to American culture. D. She believes that America has enough wealth to offer immigrants and they do not need to bring more wealth over with them. So let's start from the bottom. At no point does she say, or does the poem say, that nobody needs to bring any money over. She also doesn't say, like, she says America is wealthy in some way, but not, she's wealthy and, like, welcoming. It's not in a, like, bragging about how much money America has, like that is trying to say. So that's not a good answer. Then we've got C. She does not want the new immigrants coming to the U.S. to bring their old customs with them from the ancient lands, as she prefers that they adapt to American culture. At this point, guys, America didn't have, like, a set culture. We were a total mixing pot. So that is definitely not true. And we've got B. She is uninterested in receiving the old grandeur and riches of the ancient land the immigrants come from and prefers to welcome those in need. Remember, she says, give me your poor, you're tired, you're sick. Those are definitely people in need, but let's go and look at A. She wants to keep all wealthy immigrants from the ancient lands out of the U.S. because they will not work as hard as the poor immigrants. We're not worried about who's going to work harder. We're worried about welcoming everybody. So B is definitely the best answer. B for the best. All right, part A. How do the differences between the Statue of Liberty and the Colossus of Greek fame, line 1, develop the overall meaning of the poem? A. The Statue of Liberty, or the new Colossus, stands as a more welcoming figure than the old Colossus, embracing the incoming immigrants rather than conquering them. That seems pretty much like what we've been talking about. This seems pretty spot on, so I'm going to say probably A, but let's look at the other ones. B. The Statue of Liberty, or the new Colossus, stands as a more imposing figure because she seems mighty and unapproachable. If she's welcoming everyone, she probably doesn't seem mighty and unapproachable. Let's go to C. The Statue of Liberty, or the new Colossus, is the same as the old Colossus, and both conquer and control various lands. We're not talking about the Statue of Liberty conquering or controlling lands. We're talking about her welcoming people. So C is not a good answer. Then we've got D. The Statue of Liberty, or the new Colossus, is stronger than the old Colossus because she is more maternal and conquers only the rich people. Now, it does say she's more maternal than the old Colossus, but she's not just conquering rich people. She's not conquering anybody. She's just embracing and welcoming them. So A would be the best answer choice. And then we've got part B. What piece of evidence would best support your answer to part A? From her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome, her mild eyes command. B, with conquering limbs astride from land to land. C, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Or D, I lift my lamp beside the golden door. So if we're talking about welcoming people and being kinder than an old statue, I would say probably A, because from her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome, so that's welcome, and mild is like kind. So her kind eyes command. So it's not conquering like the previous statue. It is a kind way. All right. Here we go. Next one. So this one is about JFK's inauguration speech, inaugural address. This is, again, something you're going to want to read the PDF of. You're not going to want to try to read it on here. It's very blurry and hard to read. I don't know why it's turning out blurry. I'm sorry, guys. But that's why I included the PDF. Easy to read on there. So here we go. Next one. In his speech, how does Kennedy build his claim that the U.S. will defend freedom in its hour of maximum danger? In paragraph 25. So go back and read 25, or I will real quick. Here we go. In the long history of the world, only a few generations have been granted the role of defending freedom in its hour of maximum danger. I do not shrink from this responsibility. I welcome it. I do not believe that any of us would exchange places with any other people or any other generation. The energy, the faith, the devotion which we bring to this endeavor will light our country and all who serve it, and glow from that fire can truly light the world. So, how does he build his claim in that paragraph that the U.S. will defend? So A, by arguing that the U.S. must enforce international law across the world since the United States is the lone superpower in the world. B, by demonstrating that the poverty which many people suffer from is an obstacle to true freedom. C, by stating that the U.S. will play an active role in fighting groups that are opposed to freedom and by supporting groups that are fighting for freedom. Or D, by demanding that the adversaries of the United States will be more willing to negotiate or else there will be war. So, here we go. I'm going to back at that 25. Responsibility, they welcome it. And they're going to have the energy, the faith, and the devotion to protect. So, are they talking about enforcing international law? So, one ruling country over everybody? Nope. So, by demonstrating that poverty, which many people suffer from, is an obstacle to true freedom, he doesn't talk about poverty in that paragraph. So, C, by stating the U.S. will play an active role in fighting groups that are opposed to freedom and by supporting groups that are fighting for freedom. So it talks about upholding and helping, fighting for freedom and peace. We'll say maybe on C, but let's look at D. By demanding that the adversaries of the United States will be more willing to negotiate or else there will be war. He doesn't threaten war at all in that paragraph. So our best answer is definitely C. So then we go to B. Which phrase from the text provides the best support to the answer in part A? So we're looking for something that supports that the U.S. will play an active role in fighting groups that are opposed to freedom and by supporting groups that are fighting for freedom. Here we go. Let every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe to assure the survival and success of liberty. So basically saying, no matter what, it doesn't matter how hard, it doesn't matter who we have to go against, we're going to help freedom. That's pretty much supportive, but we're going to look at the other ones. Okay, so to those people in the huts and villages of half the globe struggling to break the bonds of massive misery, we pledge our best efforts to help them help themselves. So he doesn't talk about poverty, so this is not a good supporting answer. All right. C, a new world of law where the strong are just and the weak secure and the peace preserved. A new world of law sounds like he's enacting like a worldwide law, so I would say probably not because he does not want to do that. And then D, not as a call to bear to arms, though arms we need, not as a call to battle, though embattled we are. So let's break that down. Not as a call to bear arms, so not as a call to fight, though arms we need not as a call to battle. So we don't need weapons as we need a call to battle, even though we're already battling. Does that really support that he's going to play an active role supporting freedom? Not really. That's talking about weaponry and battle. So I think A is going to be our best bet for that question. All right. Going down to the next one. How are paragraphs 10 through 13 significant to the author's claims? So let's look at 10 through 13. To our sister republics south of our border, we offer a special pledge to convert our good words into good deeds in a new alliance for progress, to assist free men and free governments in casting off the chairs of poverty. But this peaceful revolution of hope cannot become the prey of hostile powers. Let all our neighbors know that we shall join with them to oppose aggression or subversion anywhere in the Americas, and let every other power know that this hemisphere intends to remain the master of its own house. To that world assembly of sovereign states, the United Nations, our last best hope in an age where the instruments of war have far outpaced the instruments of peace, we renew our pledge of support to prevent it from becoming merely a forum for invective, to strengthen its shield of new and the weak and to enlarge the area in which its writ may run. Finally, to those nations who would make themselves our adversary, we offer not a pledge but a request that both sides begin anew for the quest for peace, before the dark powers of destruction unleashed by science engulf all of humanity in planned or accidental self-destruction. So, how are those paragraphs significant to the author's claims? So A, the paragraphs clarify Kennedy's plans for the future of the United States and our alliances. So it does mention the plans, but it doesn't really clarify. It doesn't say, hey, we're going to do this to keep you from being poor. we're not going to do that, or we're going to do this, or we're going to do that. It doesn't really clarify his plans. Let's look at B. The paragraphs emphasize Kennedy's desire for peace and his advocacy for our nation's adversaries to also desire peace. Does it talk about us having peace? Does it talk about requesting peace from our adversaries? Yes. So B is probably a good answer, but let's look at C and D. The paragraphs establish Kennedy's steps for how he will achieve peace between the United States and our adversaries. Doesn't give us steps. There's no plan. There's no steps. So then we've got the next one. Paragraphs contrast Kennedy's call for peace Paragraphs contrast Kennedy's call for peace with his need for aggressive patrolling of the borders. He doesn't talk about patrolling of the borders. Remember, he talks about helping the borders. So it's definitely going to be B. Definitely going to be B. All right. Then we go to the next one. Which piece of evidence best supports the answer to part A? So we're looking for something that supports the idea that the paragraph emphasized Kennedy's desire for peace and his advocacy for our nation's adversaries to also desire peace. So we've got A, finally to those nations who would make themselves our adversary, we offer not a pledge but a request that both sides begin a new quest for peace. Ooh, does that talk about peace and adversaries? Yes, it does. But let's look and see if there's, goodness gracious, there we go. If there's something better. B, this peaceful revolution of hope cannot become the prey of hostile powers. So it's talking about peaceful revolution and hope, but it doesn't say hostile powers. So let's go to the next one. Like, that's not the focus. It's not focused on people trying to stop it. It's focused on spreading that peace and wanting peace with our adversaries. Let's go to the next one. And let every other power know that this hemisphere intends to remain the master of its own house. That doesn't really support that, he's trying to share peace. That's talking about, like, our alliances, basically. And D, our best hope in an age where the instruments of war have far outpaced the instruments of peace. Again, that's talking about how we fight compared to how we, make peace. So I think that probably A is our best bet. All right. Which statement from the text best describes the relationship that Kennedy thinks the United States should have with its adversaries? Ooh, we just kind of talked about this. We pledge our best efforts to help them help themselves. B, we let us never negotiate out of fear, but let us never fear to negotiate. C, can we forge against these enemies a grand and global alliance, north and south and east and west, that can ensure a more fruitful life for all mankind? Or D, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. So adversaries are people that go against us. So we pledge our best efforts to help them help themselves. If you look in paragraph 9, that's talking about helping poor people. That's not an adversary, so it's definitely not A. B, let us never negotiate out of fear, but let us never fear to negotiate. So, let's never fear to have that discussion with people we don't like, is basically what he's saying. That seems pretty good. That seems like it's kind of describing or starting to describe the relationship that Kennedy wants the United States to have with its adversaries. Let's look at the next one. Can we forge against these enemies a grand and global alliance, north, south, east, and west, that can ensure a more fruitful life for all mankind? That one seems pretty good too. Let's go to D. Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. And that's talking about us with our country, not our adversaries. So I would say it's probably B or C, but let's kind of break it down. Which one talks about having a relationship with enemies? So this one talks about forging against. So that's not interacting with enemies. That's forging against. But negotiating is having a relationship with adversaries. So I'm going to say B is definitely the better answer. B is the best. Alrighty, then we go to the next one. What is the purpose of the two metaphor Kennedy uses in the phrase, if a beachhead of cooperation may push back the jungle of suspicion? In paragraph 20. So let's look at this. A, Kennedy uses metaphors to emphasize that just like in World War II, the United States must establish a beachhead in order to attack its enemies. Has Kennedy been talking about attacking enemies? No, he wants to negotiate. He wants to have peace. He's not attacking. A is not a good answer. B, Kennedy uses the metaphors to argue that the U.S. and its adversaries must quit being suspicious of the jungle if they were going to successfully cooperate. He's not talking about the jungle. The jungle is part of the metaphor. So that's not a good answer either. C, Kennedy uses the metaphors to explain that the new generation must be willing to face the global issues that will define the future. Yes, he's talking about defining the future, but that's not talking about cooperation. That's talking about global issues we're going to face. So let's look at D. Kennedy uses metaphors to conclude his argument that the U.S. adversaries must cooperate and reject their suspicions of each other. Ooh, yeah, that talks about suspicion, cooperation, and like pushing back or rejecting those suspicions. So I would say D is probably our best answer. Then we're going to go to this next one. According to the text, what role does Kennedy think the New World generation should play in addressing the problems facing the world? So A, Kennedy believes that numerous problems facing the world can only be solved through prayer. B, Kennedy believes that Americans should unite and prepare to defend their country. C, Kennedy argues that even though there are numerous problems facing the world, the new generation should accept the challenge and try to solve them. Or D, Kennedy argues that most of the problems facing the world cannot be solved in his lifetime, so people should focus on living their lives to the fullest. All right, so he is talking about negotiation. He's talking about peace. He's talking about helping people. He's not saying you have to do it through prayer. He's talking about pushing back suspicion. He's talking about cooperating. So he's not saying to pray or not to pray, but that's not the only way that the problems could be solved according to him. Remember, negotiation, cooperation, things like that. So A is not the best answer in this case. B, Kennedy believes that Americans should unite and prepare to defend their country. That sounds like they're going to fight. Kennedy, again, is arguing for peace. He's not arguing for our country to fight. So B, not a good answer. C, Kennedy argues that even though there are numerous problems facing the world, the new generation should accept the challenge and try to solve them. Yes, guys, he argues that there are problems, but he says that we should cooperate. He said that we should reject suspicion. We should try to solve these problems. So I would say C is a pretty good answer, but let's look at D. Kennedy argues that most of the problems facing the world cannot be solved in his lifetime, so people should focus on living their lives to the fullest. He's not focused just on his lifetime, guys. He's focused on the U.S. and the future of the U.S., so it's definitely C. C is a good answer. And we've got B. What phrase from the text best supports the answer to part A? A, we dare not meet a powerful challenge at odds and split asunder. B, let both sides explore what problems unite us. C, I do not shrink from this responsibility. I welcome it. Or D, with a good conscience, our only sure reward. So, we're looking for something that Kennedy is saying there's numerous problems, but we should accept them and accept the challenge of the problems and try to solve them. So we dare not meet a powerful challenge at odds and split asunder. So that's like split apart and fall apart. So that talks about a powerful challenge, but if we're fighting, then we're just going to split apart. That's not really focused on us accepting the challenge and solving them. That's what would happen if we weren't together when we face this problem. So it's not A. Then we've got B, let both sides explore what problems unite us. That is a good way to find cooperation, especially with our adversaries, but is that talking about what challenges are ahead and how we're going to solve them? Not really. I mean, it says problems and unite, but not challenge. We're looking for challenges that make us are strong and difficult and we have to solve them. And let's see. C, I do not shrink from this responsibility. I welcome it. So the responsibility to solve this problem. The responsibility to solve this problem, to solve this challenge, and welcome it. So trying to solve it in the future. C is probably a pretty good answer again. But let's look at D. With a good conscience, our only sure reward. So with a good conscience, so with a clean conscience, not feeling guilty, that's our only good reward. that's not really talking about us facing a challenge and trying to solve it. So I'm going to say that C is definitely the best answer again for this question. Only 2 left, guys. Here we go. Alrighty. What is Kennedy's main purpose in the speech? A, to inspire listeners to take action in solving and addressing the many political issues of the day. B, to encourage listeners to elect him president when they go vote in the election. C, to intimidate listeners into following his instructions by explaining what could happen to the country under different leadership. C, to help listeners comprehend the large political terms he is using to convey his plans for the future of the United States. So first of all, this is an inaugural speech, meaning he's already been elected. This is him being put into office. So we know it's not B. And on top of that, he's not using large political terms. He is talking to literally the entire country right now. So it's definitely not D. So we've got it narrowed down to A or C. So is he trying to inspire listeners to take action, or is he trying to intimidate listeners into following his instructions? Is he giving step-by-step instructions? Is he telling them, if you don't do this, then something bad is going to happen, or if you don't listen to this, then the next person's going to mess it up? No. He's talking about all these problems that we're facing now and that we're going to continue to face in our generations and those ahead of us, how we're going to try to solve them and address them. So he's trying to inspire. And last but not least, what evidence best supports the answer to part A? A, let us never negotiate out of fear. B, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. C, we shall pay any price, bear any burden. Or D, we dare not meet a powerful challenge at odds and split asunder. So we're looking for something that shows he's trying to inspire the listeners to take action in solving and addressing the political issues. So let us never negotiate out of fear. That's talking about adversaries, but that's not talking about solving and addressing political issues of the day. Ooh, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. That's how you would fix or solve problems in your country. You're asking what you can do to do that. That's pretty much what that says, but we'll go to the next 2 and make sure they're not better. C, we shall pay any price, bear any burden. That may be ways that we could address it, but it's not talking about us taking action. And then D, we dare not meet a powerful challenge at odds and split asunder. Like I talked about earlier, that's like us meeting a very difficult challenge, and then because we are fighting, we fall apart. So best answer is definitely B. Ooh, and we are done. So if you got those answers, then you definitely got you got them all right. Got them all right, guys. Alrighty. Thank you for following this with me, especially if you watched it. I will see you again tomorrow. Bye.